it off, man. We're gonna get flagged for copyright.
I was trying to come up with something cat related for Monday Night Football, but
oh yeah,
that's the best I could come
up
with.
Like, it's my dad's birthday today, so that made me that was the only connection I could manage right now.
Oh, was that a little too close? Were you about to tear up?
No.
And after that intro, welcome back to the PML pod after a short hiatus of certain different small catastrophes that we were all having. I was moving to a whole other state, and Wick is apparently going through hell. Luke is always on the road, and no one else really seems to care about this. So the people who listen to it are the ones who do it. So that's why we're back.
You could have had Jared on again.
I could have had Jared on again. He seems... I don't know how busy he is with his new Jewish girlfriend. They seem to do a lot together. Proud of you, buddy. She seems like a real winner. All right. So this is going to be a little different. We're not going to do fantasy. We're going to talk about the 2 wins pool games we have going right now. And I say 2 because for me, at least, EPL is over. And I feel like at least Jared, I'm sure, also thinks EPL is over. I'm probably going to upset Preston and Wick with that, but... if you're so upset about it, you guys should do a pod, and then you can shit all over my team.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm very not qualified to talk about EPL wins pool.
None of us are, except for Preston.
I don't think anybody wants my opinion on EPL wins pool, and I don't want to give my opinion on EPL wins pool. More importantly, whereas I do want to give my opinion on NFL and NBA wins pool, even though y'all probably want that even less.
So with that in mind, let's start talking about the NFL wins pool, which it did seem really close until Max finally broke out and had his 3-0 weekend, and he's now up. He has 3 points on Preston in second place. A lot of people hovering around 14 and 13, and then Kevin, Jared, and Tilka at the very, very bottom. All right, so do you want to go team by team, or do you just want to talk about something in particular, Luke?
Well, we could either go person by person, I think, like from top to bottom or bottom to top, or we could go back and do like kind of a draft retro.
And we already did a draft recap. Let's just talk about teams from top to bottom. So at the top, okay. Max. Max, yeah. He got the 49ers at like 27 or something. When did he
26.
pick? 26. Jeez, right before my pick. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we might have said it in the draft recap, but they probably fell farther than they should have, but I don't think anyone would have thought they got 8 wins by now. That's pretty crazy. Last undefeated team.
I was pretty high on the Niners. I was pretty high on Max's teams in general coming out of the draft. I think we would go back and listen to that. We all picked him to have a top 3 finish because we thought the 49ers were a steal at that time. Yeah. But none of us would have seen the Niners as the only undefeated team left in the league at 8-0. That's a pretty. I mean, they've been the surprise of the season. And if you get that team, like Max's Panthers pick isn't a great, but it doesn't sink him.
No.
And his Chiefs pick, honestly, is like somehow going to give him like a negative draft position grade just because it's second overall. But the floor is so high with that team. I mean, they're going to get Mahomes back. He's probably going to coast wire to wire first from this point on.
Yeah.
Would be my guess.
Even
if the Niners drop off a little bit, which they should, and even if the Panthers, Kyle Allen looked very bad this past week.
But Christian McCaffrey looked great. I love that guy.
Yeah. He'll continue to look great until he gets injured, or he'll just be great for the entire season and win Offensive Player of the Year.
Don't you put that voodoo on me. So, talking about Max probably being untouchable for the rest of the year, second place, the person who'd catch him was Preston at 16, Saints, Colts, and Raiders. This is a decent team. He has 16 points halfway through the season. That's amazing. Colts are a solid pick. The Raiders are better than we all thought. I think we all were pretty skeptical of the Raiders pick, but 4 wins at this point, not bad. Saints without Drew Brees, another team that lost a quarterback that's somehow chugging along.
I think Preston nailed every single one of his picks.
Yeah.
could have taken the Niners over the Raiders, which is what I probably would have done at 21. Looking at the teams, like I would have considered the Niners or the Bills in that spot. But like the Raiders are not a terrible pick, especially looking at Toka and Jared with the next two. I've got the draft open right now, and it goes that Colts pick at 20, that Raiders pick at 21. Then Toka took the Jets at 22, and Jared took the Skins at 23. And it's just like we'll get to them at the bottom of the standings, and that's why, because the whole idea when you get into that back half is to limit risk.
There's There's a lot of other reasons that those two are at the back, though, but we can get to that.
We'll get to them later. The Raiders are, I think this year I've been pretty close to, like I had a pretty good impression of what each team was going to do in the NFL this year. We'll get to the NBA where I was a lot further off later in the podcast, but I've been right on most teams this year. Like the teams I thought would be good are good. The teams I thought would regressed. And the teams I thought would be mediocre or bad were kind of in that range, plus or minus a couple wins here and there. The Raiders were one of the teams I missed the most. I thought this was like a 4-win team. I thought this was going to be
Really?
They are a 4-win team. They have 4 wins in 8 games. So
okay, well that's different from
that's
4 wins
good.
in 16 games. I think
props to Preston for picking them up, and props to like that Colts team is good. All around. I hope Brissett comes back for them. They're right in that wild card spot right now.
The craziest thing about the Colts team is that all of their losses are not on either of their backup quarterbacks. They fall squarely on the 42-year-old kicker. Sucks.
Yeah, they're a couple. Well, all their games seem to be within a score, basically. Even the ones they win, they're not blowing teams out either, which is why I don't think they're necessarily like people talk about. If he makes field goals, they have 7 or they have 6 wins, and we're talking about them as the class of the AFC. I'm like, are we though? Because all their wins are only by a score. None of their wins are against anyone impressive, right?
Yeah.
I'm forgetting. So I don't think they've beaten like the Chiefs or something, right?
No.
Although they came close. No, wait, they did beat the Chiefs.
They did beat the Chiefs. Primetime. Yeah, that's right.
So they beat the Chiefs on primetime, and that was that would be like the win to point to as like this Colts team is really.
They're still good. They're still competing for the division, and that's all that matters. So next in third place, a surprising Jacob Baxter, who his first pick of the Steelers was solid when it was made, but it kind of fell apart. Still chugging along at 4, but if you consider
has it fallen apart though? Like he's got 4. Like compare that Steelers pick to the Chargers, Bears, Brown. Like the picks around it aren't great.
Okay,
either.
yeah, I'm not gonna. You're right. It's not the worst pick of the first round, sure, but losing Big Ben, you'd think not season over, but season compromised. But even if you consider the Seahawks as his first round pick, I mean, he stole them in the second round. They're
absolute steal.
They're on fire.
I said I was between the Seahawks and the Vikings at 12,
and then if the Lions, I mean, this is another game of what ifs, but if the Lions just hadn't been pussies in overtime, I mean, that's an extra half a point for him, so he would be at 15 if not for the one game where the Lions kind of choked a bit.
I mean, if the Lions had a defense,
that too,
Baxter would probably be second.
They should hire a defensive-minded head coach or something.
That would help, I would think. Maybe one of the guys working for Belichick on his defense this year. They should hire Belichick's son.
Belichick Jr., yeah.
Yeah, get him out there.
I bet that guy looks great without facial hair.
He looks like the second season trashy dude from Stranger Things. Like the shitty older brother. That's who he reminds me of.
R.I.P. Billy. Spoiler, sorry everyone. And then fourth place, we have Wick, Craig, and Evan all tied at 14. And just going by draft position, talk about Wick first. Solid Patriots pick, obviously first overall pick, makes sense. Jags and Bucks. Jags were interesting for a while with Minshew. Now, supposedly Nick Foles is the starter again. And the Bucks almost stole a win in Seattle, but could not get it done in overtime.
Yeah.
This is an okay team. I mean, this is average. And you have one really good team, one mediocre team, and one bad team. Like that's
what danger in picking at the top of the draft.
Like you do that, and you're going to finish top 5. Like that's what happens. That's just how everyone else drafts. My team is more of a mixed bag. Eagles at 3 is looking like a fucking train wreck. Oh my god. I don't even want to get into that shit. I bitch on it on Group Me enough. But Ravens, solid win over the Patriots. And the Broncos are like... The Broncos are going to be that team that somehow, like, you look at their end of the year record and they're going to have, like, 5 or maybe even 6 wins. And they're going to be like, how the hell did this team win 6 games? Because, I mean, in one of those games is going to be this game against the Browns. It's ridiculous that... And apparently Joe Flacco is the problem, too. I mean, shit. If they... Give him a wild card at this point.
I've been trying to tell you guys for like 2 years. Joe Flacco's been one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league since 2014.
See, that's blasphemy. Because why would the Ravens pay a guy if he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league?
Well, when they paid him in 2013, that was the problem. He only became one of the worst quarterbacks in the league after he got paid.
That sounds like blasphemy against Ozzie Newsome.
I mean, the Ravens pick's been great. I think a lot of the picks in the back of that second round turned out really well. Or actually, middle of that second round turned out really well. That's kind of where all the value. Those are the teams that went from like 11 through 16 are probably the teams that should have gone like 6 through 10.
No, I'm looking at it now, and it's like the back of the first round is 4, 3, 4, 2, 1. And that the next couple picks are 6, 6, 7, 7. Like, it's like...
Well, and then the Cowboys at 15, and there's all the evidence in the world to suggest that they'll have 10 wins, too.
Yeah. Which leads us into... Oh, no, it doesn't. Sorry, it took us way later. But Evan... See, I feel like the 14 group is a mixed bag of Wick with, like, a great team, a good team, and a bad team. Me with, like, 2 good teams and 1 bad team. And then Evan has 3 mediocre teams with the Bills, who were his third-round pick, as his best team, which is impressive.
If it weren't for the Niners, the Bills would have been the steal of the third round.
Yeah.
And I said I really liked that pick in the recap, and this is why they had this kind of potential with an easy schedule and an amazing defense.
And an amazing quarterback. I mean, come on. That guy looked good in shorts and all that other shit.
Sure.
Chargers, very disappointing, but that's also like expected of the Chargers, I suppose. And the Titans are just
the Chargers pick looked a lot worse 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, when you upset the Packers, it changes.
And that's kind of the fun thing. Like, we're looking at this now. There's some teams in here that I think are going to get better, and there's some teams in here that I don't think are going to be able to keep this up. So that's the interesting part. Like, I don't think, like, while I do think Max is kind of pulled away, and Preston probably is a half step above the rest of us, there's this group from me to Baxter that are all within a win and a half.
Yeah.
No, if one of these groups go on like a string of 2-0 week or 2-1 weeks, or get 2 3-0 weeks towards the end of the season, like that, they're going to start to separate.
Yeah,
even Real and Preston.
The race for third is going to be interesting, which pulls us to the back of said group. You, Luke, Rams, Vikings, and Giants. Giants have looked impressive they passed the eye test, but nothing in the wins column.
They did not look good. They looked good. They looked good for like and then their quarterback's just incredibly inconsistent.
Yeah, he was bad. I loved was it as you were typing it when you said that he is like Mason Rudolph, but he can run, and then right after you sent that, he fumbled. Because I was reading it as he fumbled it. That was hilarious.
Which is another thing that he has in common with Mason Rudolph. They both like to fumble.
That's not good for your team.
Well, it's less good if you're a running quarterback and you like to fumble. which seems to be Danny. I think Danny Dimes leads the league in fumbles.
Oh, yeah, he does. Him and Minshew.
Yeah.
Minshew. Your team's not bad. I mean, the Giants will hurt
I need
you.
the Giants
but
to win that matchup they have with the Redskins in the back half of the year and then steal a win somewhere else. Like, if they can get me 5-6 wins, that's the difference between, like, probably 4th and 7th place.
Yeah. That's what you should get 5 wins out of your third-round pick, unless you're, like, 28th or later.
Yeah, I mean, it's just probably the biggest regret I have is I should have taken the Cardinals there. I was kind of sitting there tossing up Giants and Cardinals.
Nah, I don't really see that I don't see that as the problem. I don't think anyone would have thought 3.5 wins for the Cardinals at this point, but whatever. So then in the back group, we have Kevin, who's I love Kevin's draft. I talk about it every time. Dolphins, 1 win. Congrats, Kevin. You got your win.
Hey, a better pick than the Bengals.
Oh, yeah. Way to go, Kevin.
I was considering the Bengals there, and man, they are awful.
I guess that's where I would have seen Cardinals. I definitely would have picked Dolphins and Bengals as the last 2, but Cardinals would have been 30th. But yeah. Jesus Christ.
That was around my, yeah.
So Texans is a good pick. Like we said, it's in that group of like random second-round picks that is doing well. But the Bears,
there's just a lot of teams with 6 to 8 wins, and if like you get one of them, it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how many of those teams get to 10 or more, and that's going to decide where we finish down the stretch.
I just like that Kevin picked the Bears because he thought they were better than the Packers, and they're not. It's like biting him in the ass. But the guy who picked the Packers is also sucky. Because Jared took the Falcons in the first round. So Jared has Falcons, Packers, and Redskins, and the Packers have 7 of his 9 points. Redskins are
It's a really good thing for Jared he got the Packers. Because he had probably the 2 worst picks in the draft.
This is where we need historical data because it's like just like a SAS program of how bad is this pick versus every other pick? Because good Lord, the Falcons at 9 or whenever he got them, 10. That's ridiculous. This was supposed to be their year.
I still kind of think of the Packers as his 10th pick and the Falcons as his 13th pick. Because like he probably could have done that. Like he could have taken the Packers at 10, and then I probably still would have taken. Like Kevin would have taken the Texans, and I probably still would have taken the Vikings, and then he would have definitely taken the Falcons at 13.
Yeah.
So I think it's really bad to look at that first round and see a 1 right now. But I think they can get to 3 or 4 wins this year, and it'll look it'll still be a bad pick. Better.
And then pulling up the rear is Tilka. Browns, Cowboys, and Jets, who the Jets beat the Cowboys, but then lost to the Dolphins. I mean,
that's so sad that the 1 win the Jets have for him was against one of his other 2 wins pool teams.
That's pathetic, yeah. The worst of luck.
And the Browns and Jets play each other.
Oh, yeah.
Or is that one of the Browns'
It's one of the Browns' wins. Yeah, the Browns beat the Jets. So
when they were starting Luke Falk on Monday night.
Oh man, if only the Cowboys played the Browns, then Tilka could have his own circle of suck. But he's just gonna have to suck on his own at the very bottom of the wins pool standings. So after going in team by team, looking at the current standings with this group blob in the middle? Who would you pick going forward to finish 3rd, considering Baxter only has a half point ahead of everyone else? 1.5 including you.
I'm looking right now, I'd really prefer to have the schedule. I mean, this is going to be. I think this group is going to stay tight for the rest of the year. I don't see anyone. Like, I'm looking through. I think you have a pretty good chance, and I like Preston's grouping too.
Yeah. I think Preston holds on to second, but I like out of that group, I would pick me just because I think depending on if the Jags somehow come out with Nick Foles and are on fire, but you can't count on that.
I'll say this. If, like, probably 60% of the coaches of the league were coaching the Eagles other than Doug Peterson, I don't think I would pick the Eagles to turn it around. But because their coach is Doug Peterson, I think there's some hope still, because it's like, well, he did just win a Super Bowl, so I kind of have to give him the benefit of the doubt. But they've been just bad this year in, like, ways that they shouldn't be bad. Like, they lost to the Falcons in what is turning to be, like, one of the – it's like that game and the win the Jets had over the Cowboys are, like, the two most inexplicable games. And when I think about, like, how weird an NFL season can be, like, that's what springs to my mind. Like, when you talk about, like, any given Sunday, like, those are the games that, like, what happened?
Yeah, I don't need to get into it, but you have more confidence than I do, so I applaud you. So
well, it's more that I think the Broncos are pretty good for a bottom 6 or 7 team. And I think the Ravens are going to start – like, the Ravens have only recently started to look as good as they did against the Patriots. And that doesn't mean they'll look that good for the rest of the year. But they looked a lot – like, Lamar Jackson looked bad against the Steelers. They won that game because the Steelers have a terrible offense.
Mm-hmm.
And their defense has looked bad in a lot of other games this year. The Patriots just couldn't move the ball for some reason.
Also, the Browns beat the Ravens at home, too. Or, I mean, in Baltimore. So it's weird. It's just so fucked up. So
yeah, I don't know what's happening with that Browns. Yeah. The Browns team is like the Eagles if the Eagles had a terrible coach.
I like Freddie. I think someone even had a tweet where they said basically the same thing I'm about to say. Like, Freddie seems like a character. He seems like a really nice guy. He seems like he cares. But good God, he sucks.
He is so obviously and terribly overmatched. And I wasn't like, there were a lot of other people smarter than me about football who were saying, why do we have any faith in this man to lead this group of characters through this season?
Yeah.
And I think all those questions, like, the answer is there's no reason to have Freddie Kitchens. There's no reason to have faith in Freddie Kitchens. Like, he hadn't indicated anything that we should, and he hasn't indicated anything going forward.
I mean, yeah, I'm just salty because he's a Bammer, and it's like I want him to succeed, but it's not like he needs to be fired. That's how sad this season is for the Browns.
As a Steelers fan, I hope he retains his job for years to come.
You're a bad Bammer. Okay, so
I'm the worst. I'm the worst Bammer in the group because I didn't go there for undergrad.
Yeah, you weren't as indoctrinated as the rest of us were. So now that we've picked apart the NFL for a solid 23 minutes,
let's go.
We're going to crash in on this NBA wins pool. You want to go team by team, or do you want to talk about the draft? We'll do both,
we'll do draft. We'll focus on the draft.
Then let's go by the draft. So,
and we actually have some results to make fun of picks.
Yeah, to kind of back things up. So, Luke's Sixers pick at 1. Obviously, a huge miss because they lost to the Suns. Like, terrible pick.
There's no team I missed harder on coming into this year than the Suns.
Did any casual sports fan look at the Suns and go, yeah, that's a 40-win team?
There were very, very few serious NBA people who looked at the Suns and said, oh, yeah, that's a 40-win team.
Who was it? Oh, wait, it was when they beat the Clippers. When they beat the Clippers, they were even like, Eitan, you're probably on drugs. Like, there was no way you guys beat the Clippers without cheating. So,
I mean, they weren't wrong. Wasn't Ayton suspended for drug use?
Oh, was he? I thought he just got drug tested. I don't know if he got suspended. Damn, that makes that loss even worse. Fucking Ben, take another 3. So the worst, what stands out is the Warriors pick. And we knew they were like they were a very
I called it a bad pick when it happened.
I just feel like they weren't going to be this bad, and then on top of it, Steph got hurt.
No one thought they were going to be like bottom 3 bad.
No, absolutely not.
And I still don't think they'll be bottom 3 bad. They'll
pick it back up.
But I think everybody thought they were still like probably gonna scrap around and make the playoffs. But I don't think that's going to be the case anymore. They're going to be the team that misses.
Yeah, I thought of them as like 7 or 8 seed, and then Clay comes back and they go ham in the playoffs. But now it's like shit. They actually might be picking in the lottery.
I didn't think he was going to be. I didn't think Clay was coming back this year at all, even if they made it into the playoffs.
Well, now he's definitely not. Nothing else.
I mean, I texted you. You said Warriors here. We were texting during the draft.
Yeah.
I told you, like, I don't like this Warriors team, especially because I think they're a bunch of nobodies after Steph and Draymond.
Yeah. I wouldn't say nobodies, but definitely role players. And this isn't a league you win in with
lottery team starters.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Also, while we're talking about, I don't know how bad it is to talk about draft strategy, but another person I was texting while we were drafting was Preston, and Preston just texted me right before his pick and was like, well, he texted me well before, and he was like, I really want to get the Pacers because then I might actually follow basketball because I like the Pacers. And I was like, yeah, you could definitely get them at 10. And then it got to his pick, and they were there. And he was like, do you think if I took the Celtics at 10 that the Pacers would still be there at 13? And I was like, I have the 11th pick. And I was like, probably not. And he was like, oh, never mind. So then he took the Pacers, and that's why I took the Celtics. So,
yeah. He probably, like, the Celtics are probably the better team, although, honestly, they're going to be right around that 3 or 4 seed in the East.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to talk about looking at results.
Them and the Raptors in that second tier.
If you made it a toss-up, I would take the Celtics, but I still feel like the Pacers are going to be good just because they were so good last year without Depot, and now they have him back. So,
yeah.
Second round, let's see. The Heat, God, Max with another steal. The Heat somehow look good. Who called that?
I mean, it's still famously the first year LeBron was in Miami. They were like 10-11 at some point through the first 21 games, and everyone was freaking out. And that team won 50 games. So keep in mind, like, we can call, like, I'm still kind of out on the Suns. Like, I think the Suns are better than I thought they would be, but I also don't think the Suns are going to be like,
give the Suns 50 wins.
Just because they're like 5-2 right now.
Nothing really sticks out in the second round. The back end sucked. Pelicans, Magic, Thunder, Kings. Thunder went, I don't know, I don't remember their odds, but I would not have taken the Thunder through the first 20 picks. I don't see them.
They went right where they should have.
Really? I don't see them as a playoff team. And I don't.
Yeah, but I don't. They were like the 9th Western Conference team chosen. Did I have that right?
I can't count back, but I still feel like 9th is even too high. But then again, I would have thought the Kings took a step forward, but
they were the 11th Western Conference team picked.
Okay, then maybe they did go where they should have.
Yeah, I kind of thought they went exactly where they should. And I took the Magic a pick before them because I didn't want to take any of the. I thought the Timberwolves were the best of that group, and I didn't want to take any of the Thunder Kings and Timberwolves because I'm like, all right, these are all like, they're going to be scrapping to get 40 wins together at the end of the year, trying to make that 8th playoff seed, and then ultimately fall like 3 games short. I just figured the Magic had more consistency and would have a better year this year, which really hasn't come together so far.
I feel like
there's a lot of noise in these wins right now.
I think EB's next pick is of it. Everyone was high on them just because of Kyrie, and they did build a decent team, but it's like they're not. That's another team that I think isn't going to make the playoffs, and people will say like, "Oh, how could they have missed?" And it's like,
You mean that you think the Nets won't make the playoffs?
Okay, that's a little hyperbolic. I think they won't make it past the first round, and I'm sure they'll be a bottom. They could be an 8 to 6 seed. They won't.
I think they're going to be the 6th seed.
They won't not make the playoffs. That was a little extreme.
I think they're the 6th seed.
But I don't think they're going to be. I mean, where were they picked in the East?
And I would have thought they would have been the 5th or 6th seed, and it would have been between them or the Raptors. But Pascal Siakam looks really, really good so far.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of locked. I pushed the Raptors into that middle tier group with the Celtics and the Pacers.
Where did they
so like
go?
I think of the East as like it's the Bucks and the Sixers at the top. Then it's this like group of 3 with the Celtics, Pacers, and Raptors, where they have like a really good system built around one pretty good player who's ultimately not like a superstar.
Yeah. So then the final round.
And then I see the Nets is below that.
In the final round, Tilka started it off with going Kings to Wolves back-to-back. And then Baxter with the Suns, who could have seen it coming. But
not I. Couldn't be me.
Besides that, I mean, again, it's too early in the season to point anything out, so who knows? You know, the Hornets have a win over the Warriors.
Stacking 3 wins pretty early.
Yep, can't wait for the other 10.
I do think the Grizzlies play well going down the stretch. They've shown some good things with John Morant and Justin Jackson. Is it Justin Jackson Jr.? Jr.? Can't remember. They have a really good swingman power forward who played for them last year. He was like a lottery pick in 2017 or 2018. But he's a good player.
Yeah.
So I think they might get some more wins going forward. There's really not much to be gleaned from the standings right now because of how messy everything is.
I think the Wizards...
Except that Baxter is an NBA god.
I think the Wizards fell a little further than they should have. I feel like they should have gone in front of the Grizzlies, the Bulls, and maybe not the Pistons.
Oh, we need to talk about that Pistons pick.
How Jared kind of stole it because none of us were paying attention.
Into getting the Pistons in the middle of the 3rd round. I almost demanded a redraft, just because it was like it's very clear to me that had other people known the Pistons were available, they definitely would not have fallen to 24.
I think the only reason I agree with that is because Baxter was picking at 22, 2 picks ahead, and he loves his Detroit teams. I don't even think he cares about NBA basketball, but if he had seen Detroit, he would have been like, ooh, yeah. So,
yeah.
But he's better off with the Suns anyway, so who cares?
I mean, yes. So, like, ultimately it's not going to matter, but, like, in the moment during the draft, I was a little pissed about it. Because it's also like, I understand why you wouldn't redraft in that, like, hey, just because like we're giving you a list of teams doesn't mean it's 100% accurate, and it's up to you to do your own goddamn research.
Facts.
So we shouldn't have to spoon feed like who the last teams are left, but at the same time, like there's an expectation that the list that we're giving around is accurate, especially for these people who don't follow the NBA whatsoever.
Yeah. If you remember,
Preston was always going to take the Hawks, so that. But it was more, I think for Baxter we asked. No, I think actually it was from that Thunder pick to Jared that they fell. Because I think I asked for us to start sharing the list of teams left at Kevin, and we forgot Detroit there.
It was 11. Yep.
Yeah. And so we forgot Detroit in that list, and then we just kept winnowing the list down, and then all of a sudden Jared gets there, and Jared has the wherewithal to just say, wait, who took the Pistons? So props to Jared on that. It's not Jared's fault that he got the Pistons just happened.
At least they fell to 23 instead of like you, me, or Max.
If we would have noticed long before it got like
for sure.
Jared's around the place where it would have been like, wait a minute, there's supposed to be 6 picks left.
Okay, yeah, you're right. Yeah, they wouldn't have fallen that far, but I could definitely see it getting past Evan and Kevin. So if it had fallen to Max, then I would have called for a redraft.
They would have fallen to Max.
If they'd fallen to Max, it would be like, nah, fuck that. We're redoing the whole first and second rounds too. Then the Pistons would go in the first round because for some reason Kevin or Evan think that they're like world beaters.
Because we freaked out, that means that.
Yeah.
Well,
They'd be like, oh, they must be like the new Warriors.
I just thought we should go back to that first pick. I thought we should go back to when we first published the list of these are the teams left and pick from there. With everyone having the opportunity to know all the teams that were left. But that, I mean, like, I didn't because that would have taken so much time, and we were so close to the NBA season as is, and the NBA draft is such a nightmare. Because I think even less of us follow the NBA than NFL.
It's not as bad as the EPL draft, though. So looking at the standings, 2 weeks into it, and only 7 games for everyone. Just about 7 games for everyone. Baxter is in the lead because of his sons. Congrats. And then everyone else is just kind of in a mix. I feel like...
Oh, I think I'm looking at the live one then. Because Tilka just got bumped the win up to 11. Yeah. Baxter has 13, Max 1 behind him, and then you and Tilka are 2 behind them with 11 wins.
Yeah. When I say it makes bag, it just means I didn't want to read off everything.
Oh.
I feel like... So, it sucks.
There's 5 people within 3 points at the top, and 5 people within 1 point at the bottom, and you can just kind of look and see where you are.
Yeah, use those links. I can post stuff if someone asks, but I can't always do it because I actually have a job now. I used to just shit post for 8 hours a day and then do 2 hours of work and go home and shit post some more. Now I actually have to do work when I go in, so sorry everyone. I don't even have access to Gmail. So use those links if you want to look at stuff live. They won't be perfect, but they'll be updated at least. So looking at actual teams, if you remember, in our preseason pod, I had the hot take that every other season that we've done NBA wins pool, the separation between first place and last place was always 50 points or more, and I had the hot take that it was going to be at the most 40, I think 30 or 40 points. I probably said 30 because that's hot. And now I'm going to call out EB because the Warriors probably looking at 30 wins at the most, maybe. And the Nets, I'm still not high on, and the Bulls are going to be the Bulls. But, it sucks. But I don't think EB is going to be able to hang just because of the Warriors getting hurt so early in the season.
I wouldn't count him out yet, but I am in on the fact that there will be a 50-win difference between the top seed and the bottom
Yeah.
seed.
I'm looking forward to the year when we finally have... to be fair, we all follow the NFL pretty closely, and that's still we have a winner who gets 30-something points every year, and then we have one team who barely gets 20 or 21. So it's it makes sense.
But that's the nature of the NFL, where teams are honestly, bad teams get 10 wins all the time. The Dolphins got 9 or 10 wins. Yeah, the Dolphins got 9 or 10 wins that one year under Adam Gase, and they were very clearly a bad team.
Adam Gase was their head coach.
Adam Gase is he's 20. He went 23 and 25 in Miami, right?
Yeah.
So you're oh, that's not so bad. Yeah, 20 of those 25 losses, 20 of them were double-digit margins.
Well, to be fair, losses always fall on the defense, and he's the offensive guru. So it is really starting to look like for him that Peyton Manning was doing more work than he let on.
All right, I'm giving you guys a hint, buried this deep in the podcast, so I'm sure that no one will listen to it for Winter School next year. Look at record in close games from the year before. If a team has an unusually, if it's anywhere above or below 500, expect them to trend the opposite way the next year. No team has ever, regardless of quarterback, regardless of coach, shown a trend over time to consistently win close games. It's basically dumb luck.
Luke is just giving away strategy here. If anyone actually listened to this, they'd either be thankful or pissed off. At least you weren't. You could have been a real asshole and been like, "Look at defensive DVOA and compare it to their offense, and whichever one has the same number of wins on both sides of the ball, pick that team."
What? I don't even. I hate you so much right now for doing such a terrible. Like, about 9 things in that sentence were so far off base on what DVOA is and how it's interpreted.
They'll figure it out.
I would never wish like DVOA charts on like people who don't care about football. That'd just be mean.
So then back to basketball. So I picked my loser. I think EB loses. Do you think anyone not named EB loses? Sorry.
I mean, I'm not feeling great about my picks right now, Craig. I'm gonna throw that out there.
Magic and
really
Knicks is pretty fucking tough.
What?
Magic and Knicks is pretty fucking tough. You could have the 2 seed in the East, and you could still very well finish like 9th.
Yep. I'm not excited. Not excited.
You know, you got Markelle Fultz, so I hear he's doing great things.
I do think the Magic get more wins, but I think I made the mistake and picked the team that's going to have the best lottery odds in the Knicks this year. I was hoping that all those veteran guys they got would like kind of play harder, but it's not looking like anybody wants to play hard in New York right now.
Do you have a winner pick?
Let me see. Where? I don't. Oh, there. That's the chart I need to be looking at.
Yes, that one. I wish I could screen share on this. That would make this podcast way easier.
So I think Baxter is still a good candidate to go wire to wire because what he's done is he's avoided having a terrible team. Like, he doesn't have a 20-win team, and there's always like 7 or 8 20-win teams. And so if you have like one of those teams, that puts you at a disadvantage. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why picking in the bottom like 3 or 4 in the NBA wins pool is such a disadvantage, especially compared to the NFL, where you can almost always find like a pretty good team in the last 4 or 5 picks.
Yep. Yeah.
The difference in the 2 games. So I like his grouping. I still like Kevin's teams. I still think he finishes top half. I know that like that Grizzlies pick you probably don't like, but I think the Grizzlies are going to be a team that like in the second half of the season they're going to pick up a bunch of wins and kind of stretch out from the other lottery teams.
So I don't think it's that much of a hot take to say the 2 people who are in first and second right now, Baxter and Max, but like you said, Baxter doesn't have a terrible team. And of all of the terrible teams, the Wizards are the best terrible team. So I feel like they won't get maybe even 20 or more than that. But, you know, I feel like they're going to be the group that it's like, you know, they'll be.
I still don't believe in the Wizards, and I don't think the Heat keep this up. So that's I looked at Max's team, and I think they're up there. If I were going to pick a kind of dark horse team to group that's like not one of those 2, I would actually pick Tilka's group. The Lakers have been better than I expected so far. I think the Kings are going to do okay, and I think the Timberwolves are good. This is going to be like a Karl Anthony Towns. He's going to be like the 5th or 6th place MVP candidate that we all hoped he could be.
Before the season actually started, I would have said Tilka because I thought the Kings were going to take a bigger step forward. But, I mean, again, we're 7 games in. What the fuck do we know? So, right. Tilka, I would switch it. I would say Tilka's the dark horse for me.
Really is the Kings. Like, I honestly, when Tilka made his picks, I actually thought of the Timberwolves as his actually 20th pick. Kind of like, yeah, I thought the Timberwolves as his 20th pick and the Kings as his 21st. And if the Kings are your work team, like, I think he'll be okay. But I think he's probably going to finish top 3 either way. Just by virtue of not having that, like, 20-win lottery team that a lot of the rest of us would have.
I do disagree about Kevin's team. I want to say my team, But then I see the Hornets, and I just don't see the Hornets getting even 15 wins. Nuggets and Celtics are easily 40 wins.
They have 3 wins already. You think they're only going to get 12 the rest of the year?
Yeah.
I think they might get 23 wins.
Nah.
I
don't
think
see
they're
15.
better than I thought they were. The Nuggets, of course, are big frauds, and I don't care for your teams because of that.
Wow. Big frauds. Just like Jokic himself.
You guys know my stance on Jokic. I'm just so all in on Jokic being bad that I refuse. It's just my thing. It's like Skip Bayless and LeBron James's shots at the end of the fourth quarter for me.
I like Jokic. I liked his game, and then all these articles this summer came out about how he was the best center in the league, and I was like, whoa, what the fuck? So while I'm not totally against him, but I am kind of on the why is everyone riding his dick so hard wagon. So
I dislike Jokic for the same reason I disliked Isaiah Thomas when Isaiah Thomas was getting votes. And that was he's a very his flaws are very clearly visible and
it's like
defined.
An anti-hype train that you're kind of on, or
yeah. And that's what I started with Jokic because it kind of he started getting hyped up 2 years ago. And I was like, okay, but he can't they have to play Paul Millsap to protect the rim whenever he's on the court. But he did take a step forward defensively in his second year, except for the fact that now I'm firmly in the camp that Jokic sucks. And I will refuse to ever admit he's good, even when he wins multiple NBA championships.
You heard it here. Luke is saying that the Nuggets will win the NBA championship this year and every year to come. All right, well, now that we're at minute 47, and we've talked everyone's ears off.
And we didn't even talk about fantasy.
We didn't even talk about fantasy. And we didn't even have an advertisement, so we're not even going to make any money on this episode. And we're probably going to get flagged because I played a cat cradle in the silver spoons video. Any last words, Luke?
I would like to say I'm very happy to continue trading my paperclip up into a mansion in terms of fantasy quarterbacks through Jared.
Oh, and you just said we hadn't talked about
what I turned Russell Wilson into.
Yeah. Next show, we're going to have... I won't have Luke on because I just feel like he's going to be way too smug about this. But we're going to have Jared on, and I'm going to rip his asshole again for having another awful trade. All right.
I don't think this trade's that bad, but still.
Good night, everybody, and I hope you enjoy this 3/4 of an hour tape.